Anjali was a high school student with aspirations for her future. But the customary choices of a degree in engineering or medicine didn't make much sense to her. It left her feeling confused and uneasy until God really intervened through the most unlikely source.
Hi, my name is Anjali Manoj, and I have been a science nerd for as long as I can remember. This even led me to take up the subject after 10th grade. This should have satisfied my thirst for science, but it didn't, and the thought of my future left me very confused and unsettled. I didn't want to become a doctor or an engineer, but since that's what everybody expects you to become once you take up the subject, I'd almost resigned to my fate. So one day, this classmate of mine who I've never talked to before, he comes up to me and he asks me about my plans for the future, what exams I was planning to take up. So I very unenthusiastically told him that I was going to write the JEE, NEET and then maybe CET if required. Then he asked me if I was considering writing the SAT. I didn't know what it was at that point, so I told him no. But this piqued my curiosity and I wanted to find out more about it. So that afternoon, as soon as I got back home, I sat at my computer and I researched all about the SAT. The more I read about it, the more I felt that it was God's plan for me. It was like a light suddenly flashed in my brain and I felt this immense feeling of calmness and clarity about the direction in which I should steer my future. Now, this sense of clarity that I was feeling was not going to convince my parents, or so I thought. So the next day morning, I went up to my mom and I told her all about this new option that I'd found out for my undergraduate degree. Now I expected a lot of questions from her side because she's the kind of person who needs to know even the most intricate specs before buying a phone. To my surprise, all she said was, "Let's do it." Later she told me that the sense of clarity that I was feeling and the lack of confusion was a sure sign that this was God's plan for me. That Sunday, I met up with Pastor Danny and we prayed in the Spirit for God to reveal His plan for me. I felt a gentle nudge telling me that I should take up the SAT exam and ignore the local entrance tests. So the next week, my mom and we met up with an educational counselor who explained to me all the things that need to be done before applying to universities abroad. He told me that the United States had the best science programs and excellent facilities for research. But in order to apply to those universities in America, I had to take up the SAT exam and the TOEFL exam. What usually students do is that they take up these exams a number of times and then they send the best score from those attempts to the universities abroad. Our God is not usual. In the first attempt itself, I scored a 1500 on 1600 in my SAT, and this was in the 98th percentile. And in the TOEFL exam, I scored 114 on 120, and this meant that I didn't have to take up those exams again. God had successfully helped me clear the first hurdle. I applied to 9 universities across the United States, and I prayed earnestly before sending out each application. The funny thing is, I could feel the Lord tell me which universities I would get into and which universities I wouldn't get into just as I was hitting the send button. And just the way the Lord had revealed to me, I was accepted into 6 amazing universities. But in the whole hustle and bustle of applying to these universities and preparing for the SAT exams, I had neglected my school coursework. And I hit an all-time low when I scored a 43 on 100 in my 12th grade pre-board math exam. I was feeling extremely worried and I was very stressed out because the board exams were right around the corner. I prayed to God and I started working very hard, and in the next 2 weeks, I solved close to 20 full-length previous year's question papers, and I was feeling more confident as and when the exam date approached. And the day of the exam, my mom came and told me that she had a vision while praying that I would come out of the examination hall saying, "Yay, I've conquered it." And exactly that happened. I ended up scoring a 99 on 100 in my 12th grade math paper, and God is truly amazing. Now, I had a major decision in front of me. I had to decide which of the 6 universities' acceptance letter I was going to honor. While praying, I felt God nudge me towards the University of Washington, Seattle. And that was it, the decision was made. I felt that everything is going to be smooth sailing till the shores of the United States. But then suddenly my heart sank. I realized that I'd completely ignored this major hurdle. We still hadn't applied for an educational loan. Over the course of the next few weeks, my parents and we approached 2 different banks and we applied for the educational loan there. Now, while praying, I could feel God tell me that the first bank would reject our application for the loan. But I could also feel God tell me that, I need not be worried, I need not feel anxious in any way, because the second bank would definitely accept our application. And exactly that happened. The first bank rejected our application for the loan. And I felt extremely dejected. I went into a state of complete anxiety because I had no plan B. I hadn't applied to any university within India. So while praying, I could feel God tell me again, don't be worried, because He hadn't brought me this far just to let me fall. And exactly within the next few days, the second bank got back to us saying that they had accepted our application for the loan, although it was the biggest loan that bank had sanctioned in its history. I am truly amazed and in awe of the goodness of our Lord Jesus Christ. And as I begin this next 4-year chapter of my life, I am sure that it will act as a runway as I take flight into the skies on the plan that God has laid out for my life. Every step so far has been a testament of God's grace, and I know that it will continue to remain so.
When we trust God and follow His plans, we can be rest assured that He will not let us fall. Anjali's life is a testimony to every student at the crossroads of life. Don't sweat when not required. Let God make the tough calls. It will make your life easy.